I'd like to welcome Peggy Morton from the Edmonton Coalition Against War and Racism and member of the Marxist-Leninist Party of Canada.
Of the cities of the West Bank, in which so many people were killed, wounded, and in jail and incarcerated. Israel then claims, and I'm going to come back to this point, that everyone is a terrorist or an insurgent or a non-state actor, and therefore they have no claim to protection from invading armies, no claim to live a life in peace, no claim to have international law to them, and this is the kind of world they are trying to create. But I'm going to come back to that because I want to finish with my list of investigations. 2004, you'll remember, at the request of the General Assembly, the International Court of Justice in The Hague ruled that Israel's construction of the wall inside Palestinian territory is contrary to international law and must be dismantled. A ruling adopted unanimously by the General Assembly, with only Israel, the U.S., Australia, and a few Pacific adults dissenting. 2006, the UN Commission of Inquiry concluded that a significant pattern of excessive, indiscriminate, and disproportionate use of force by the IDF against the people of Lebanon, failing to distinguish civilians from combatants and civilian objects from military targets. And that brings us, and I'm sure that many of you could add more and more reports to this, but this brings us to 2009. and the Goldstone report, which concluded that Israel deliberately targeted Palestinian civilians and caused disproportionate destruction. That is, that Israel committed war crimes. So what has happened to all these investigations? Surely the problem is not the lack of investigation. It's the lack of will by the international community, especially by the imperialist countries headed by the U.S., and which Canada just runs along like a little dog. Which refuses to uphold international law. So why is it that they're refusing to uphold international law? I'm sure that all of you know that Omar Khanna right now is waiting to be put on trial. A 15-year-old boy suddenly becomes a war criminal. Now, if you read the UN statutes, you will see that there's no way in the world that such a trial could take place. So what's going on here? What are they trying to do with our international law? And Israel is trying to remake it, as is the US. They're trying to remake it so that what are known as the fair rules of combat, which now exist, which say that you cannot just indiscriminately and deliberately target civilians and massacre civilians, and that this is a war crime, which uphold the very law which came into being at the end of the Second World War, which says that these are crimes against the peace, crimes against humanity, war crimes. They want to change this law, and how do they want to change it? They want to change it so that they can declare anyone a terrorist, they can declare anyone to be a non-state partner, and now the rules of law will not apply to you. Targeting of civilians is no longer a war crime, and the principle of proportionality no longer applies. So that's what they're trying to do. Now, what kind of a world are we going to live in if such a thing happens? This is a very, very serious thing, because we're in the midst of this campaign to refute and defame not just all of these conclusions about the war crimes of the Israeli Zionists and to sanitize Israel's actions, but to change international humanitarian law in a way that protects the powerful states and their armies while removing the fundamental right of the world's poor and downtrodden to resist. Now let us remember when this law came into being. It was adopted by the United Nations in 1960 as a result of the courageous struggles of the people of Asia, Africa, and Latin America for their self-determination, to throw off colonial rule, to put an end to imperialist rule in their countries, and to establish their own regimes and their own self-determination. Exactly the same fight which the Palestinian people are waging now. And that law says that you have a right to resist aggression. You have a right to resist. You have a right. And it is that right which is under attack. And they want to use Palestine to deprive the whole world of that right. So what will happen to the Palestinians or the oppressed people everywhere if they succeed in striking down these principles from international law? Just imagine an entire world unprotected against occupation, invasions, exploitation, a global Gaza, if you wish. That's what imperialism is looking for. So this is what we stand against today. We stand with the people of Gaza, and we stand for that right which all people have to live as they choose, to have the government they choose, to have the social system they choose, to live without fear, in peace, without exploitation, without oppression by anyone, without going to bed at night, as people have said, never knowing when Israel is going to bomb you, when they're going to kill your children. And so we stand with the people of Gaza, and we ourselves have to work here. We can't just go home after these rallies and wait for the next attack. My hat's off to the people who are working day after day after day after day to bring the issue of Palestine to the Canadian people, and we have to continue and step up this work. Thank you very much.